In this journey, we began with a radical idea that neurodivergence is not a disorder, but evolution in progress. Then we went deeper, exploring how these pioneer minds carry a spiritual blueprint, feeling like aliens because they operate on a frequency the old world cannot yet hear. Now we arrive at the final question: what is the message they carry, and what kind of world are they calling us to build? And so the suffering many neurodivergent individuals experience is not internal. It is environmental. It is a mismatch between evolutionary potential and societal readiness. Epictetus taught that our suffering comes not from what happens, but from our interpretation of what happens. If society interprets neurodivergence as dysfunction, suffering increases. But if society interprets it as difference or even as evolution, the suffering decreases. Not because the challenges disappear, but because meaning changes the entire landscape. When something has purpose, the question shifts from "why am I like this?" to "why was I born with this?" And this is the spiritual level of the conversation. What if their struggles are not accidents but initiations? What if their gifts are not random but assignments? What if their differences are not flaws but instructions? In many ways, neurodivergent cognition resembles spiritual perception. The ability to sense subtle energy, the tendency toward hyper-focus resembling trance, the heightened emotional resonance, the intuitive leaps of insight, the nonlinear processing of reality, the deep questioning of existence, the rejection of superficiality, the hunger for meaning. These are not symptoms. These are signs. Signs of awakening, signs of expansion, signs of consciousness evolving through the human nervous system. These parallels are not accidental. They reflect a deeper truth. Neurodivergence may be one of the ways spiritual evolution expresses itself through biology. But society, fearful of difference, calls this awakening disorder. Throughout history, every new expression of consciousness has been rejected at first. First mocked, then pathologized, then feared, then repressed, and finally celebrated once the world is ready. The tide is turning. The paradigm is shifting. The old story is dissolving. But this is only the beginning. The deeper truth is this: neurodivergent individuals are not just different. They are directional. They point toward where humanity is heading. If we follow their minds, we catch a glimpse of our evolutionary potential. A world where authenticity replaces conformity, where emotional truth replaces social performance, where intuition is valued alongside logic, where creativity shapes reality as much as structure, where sensitivity is recognized as strength, where intelligence is multidimensional, where consciousness is expansive, where diversity is not tolerated, it is honored as sacred. Neurodivergent minds are reminders that the human species is not finished evolving. They are previews of what we could become. And the more we understand this, the more we must ask, what if neurodivergence is not the exception? What if it is the prototype? If neurodivergent individuals represent the early expression of a new cognitive blueprint, then understanding them requires more than diagnostics. It requires a shift in how we define being human. The challenges humanity faces cannot be solved with linear thought alone. They require precisely the forms of cognition that neurodivergent individuals embody. Yet instead of elevating these minds, society continues trying to normalize them. This mismatch creates suffering. Not because neurodivergent individuals are broken, but because they are untranslated. What if ADHD's craving for novelty is actually the psyche urging humanity to evolve faster? What if autism's pattern recognition is the psyche revealing the underlying structure of reality? What if hypersensitivity is the psyche demanding the return of emotional honesty? The signs are everywhere. And everywhere we look, they say the same thing. The old mind is fading and the new mind is rising. Change the environment, and the disorder disappears. The world has always defined disability as the inability to function within a specific environment. But when the environment changes, so does the definition of ability. In a world aligned with future consciousness, neurodivergence will not be a liability. It will be leadership. Because divergence is not the opposite of intelligence, it is the expansion of intelligence. These minds are not trying to adapt to the world. They are trying to transform it. They are not here to adapt. They are here to accelerate. They are not here to fit in. They are here to expand what fitting in means. They are not here to play the old game. They are here to write the new one. They represent the transition from human intelligence to human consciousness, from linear cognition to multidimensional awareness, from survival psychology to spiritual psychology. They are the living evidence that the next step of evolution is not physical. It is perceptual, not biological. It is cognitive, not structural. It is spiritual. And so, after all the theories, all the metaphors, and all the explanations, the grand truth is not something to be understood. It is something to be heard. Strip away everything, and you are left with one simple, undeniable message. An invitation not from the outside world, but from the very soul of humanity, speaking through the minds of its children. It says, neurodivergence is not a mistake. It is a message, a pattern, a possibility, an invitation from the soul of humanity saying, this is the next step. Listen.